Hey bass players, today we're going to demo the Origin Effects Cali76 compact bass compressor. In this video we're going to dive into how compressors work, what's an FET compressor, some different techniques for compression, and listen to a few example settings. The Origin Effects Cali76 compact bass compressor is a pedal-sized version of the classic UREI 1176 compressor created in the late 60s. At that time, engineers were transitioning from older tube preamps and compressors to the newer field effect transistors, or FET models. With features like variable attack and release, as well as selectable compression ratios, the UREI 1176 quickly became the go-to compressor in every major studio. The 1176 was unique because of its incredibly fast attack and release times. It also imparted a unique character or energy to the signal. There have been several revisions over the decades, and each has its unique characteristics, but most producers and engineers agree that no other compressor has the sonic character of the 1176. The Cali76 is the same studio-grade FET compressor with Class A low-noise circuitry and a compact pedal design. Its rugged stainless steel enclosure and aluminum knobs look and feel studio-grade. The unit is powered by either a 9-volt or 18-volt adapter, no batteries. The 18-volt adapter I'm using for today's demo allows for more headroom, meaning higher levels of compression before clipping occurs. So let's take a look at the controls. Like the original 1176, the input controls the threshold. The threshold is simply the point in which the compressor starts compressing the signal. Turning the knob clockwise will increase the amount of compression applied to the signal. Output controls the volume of the signal leaving the pedal. Think of it as makeup gain. I use it to gain match the levels of the compressed signal versus the uncompressed signal. The dry knob blends the uncompressed signal with the output. Unity gain is at 2 o'clock, and turning the knob fully clockwise adds 8 dB of boost to the output. Adding the dry signal back in with a compressed signal is called parallel compression. With this technique, you can really squash or compress the signal, but also blend in some natural playing dynamics from the uncompressed dry signal. For me, this is a must-have for any bass compressor. The ratio controls how hard the signal is being compressed once it reaches the threshold. Clockwise, the ratios go from 4.1 to a max of 20:1. An easy way to think of ratios is in decibels. 1:1 would be unity gain with no compression. 4:1 attenuates or reduces the signal that exceeds the threshold by 4 dB. That's a pretty moderate compression ratio. 12:1 attenuates the signal by 12 dB, and that's a really strong compression. Once you get up to 20:1, when this thing's maxed out, that's basically acting like a limiter, ensuring that nothing exceeds the threshold. The attack and release are conveniently combined into a single control. In most applications, you want the opposite release time from your attack time. All the way to the left is a fast attack of 0.3 milliseconds with a slow release of 267 milliseconds. As you turn the knob all the way to the right, you get a slower attack time of 2 milliseconds and a faster release of 32 milliseconds. Attack is the time it takes for the signal to become fully compressed once it exceeds the threshold. Release time is the opposite, so it's how long it takes the signal to get back to its uncompressed state. Slower attack times preserve transients and the initial attack of the string, while faster ones clamp down on it really quick. Finally, we have a high-pass filter, or an HPF. That allows higher frequencies to pass through, but filters out the low frequencies from entering the compressor. Because low frequencies can really overwhelm compressors, this is an essential tool for a bass guitar. Turning the knob clockwise sweeps the high-pass filter from 20 Hz up to 350 Hz. This allows the compressor to react only to high frequencies. It doesn't remove low end from your signal, it just removes low end from what is being compressed, and that's really helpful to preserve dynamics and have a big full bottom. With a studio compressor, I normally rely on the VU meter to show me how many decibels of compression are taking place. On the Cali76, we have a light here that's red for no compression, and it's orange for active compression. And the brighter the lamp, the greater the amount of compression and gain reduction that's taking place. If you see yellow, you know you've reached the pedal's maximum compression, which is 38 dB. Okay, now let's listen to some examples. For this first example, we're just going to set up a very simple dynamic control. Let's start by adding the high pass filter somewhere around 100 to 150 so those low signals won't trigger the compressor. Now let's set the input until we start seeing some gain reduction. Now we'll match our gain. Because usually we think that something that sounds louder just sounds better, so we want to gain match as much as possible. We'll set the ratio to somewhere around 8 to 1 and a kind of a middle of the road attack and release. You can always set the ratio and the input to your taste, but this is kind of just a basic dynamic control type of compression. Earlier I mentioned parallel compression, so let's take a look at those settings. For this example, I'm going to turn off the high pass filter. I'm really going to crank up the input, or the threshold. Let's turn the ratio up too, so we're really squashing the signal. Now I'd probably set a really fast attack for this example, so it grabs the note and starts compressing really quickly. Now on its own, this is a really artificial sounding compressed signal. But when we start to add back in the dry signal, we start to gain back some of those transients and some of the dynamics. Versus none. It's just really squashed. But listen to what happens when you start just adding a little bit of the dry signal back in. Using parallel compression allows you to compress super hard while still maintaining some dynamics by blending in the dry signal. Finally, let's look at one of my favorite settings. We'll start by cranking up the high pass filter so our low end frequencies aren't triggering the compressor. I think our threshold or input is probably set just fine. And for this one, we're going to set a really slow attack with a fast release. The slow attack allows for the transients of the note to come through before the unit starts compressing. The faster release allows the signal to recover more quickly. This creates kind of a lively, almost pumping type of compression. I can always add in a little bit more dry signal just to tame it back a little bit. But you can really hear how it adds that energy to like any type of finger style or maybe even some slap. You can listen to how it pulls the ghost notes out. I do that without the compressor. It just sounds puny, right? I'd have to really work hard to get those to pop out with the compressor. They're just right there. Then I don't have to think about it as much and I can just concentrate on playing. The Origin Effects Cali76 compact bass is really one of the finest compressors on the market. With top-notch signal processing, quality build, and bass-friendly features like dry blend and a high-pass filter, it's a must-have for any bassist. Hey, as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch today. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.